Here, so if you guys are going to hang around here, if you could be seated so people can, I guess, see. I'm not sure that there's much to see here, but let me. Hey, you're welcome to wear the mic here if you want, buddy. Yeah. Hey, just let me have a few preliminary comments, and then we'll talk about some of this other stuff. First of all, I would like to say just how sorry I am we're even having this conversation at all. It was my hope that we as the church would do better than where we are now, but well, here we are. We live in a culture where everything is divisive. Everything from politics to Star Wars to movies to God knows what. We're divided on everything, and everybody is staunchly divided, and we're going to fight this out to the end. My hope is the United Methodist Church in this particular circumstance would prove that, hey, we don't have to agree. We can still love each other and be together. But alas, we didn't. So also I want you to know that I found out about this resolution that came down. I'd heard some rumblings, but I thought the whole thing was settled. I popped open my Google News feed about 2 days after Christmas and saw there was a article in the United Methodist Church posted on CNN, and that's where I found out about this. So if you think I have any kind of inside track on anything that's happened, I don't. I could tell you some of the history, and I may have an inside track on that, but as far as what you're hearing today, please hear everything that I say in terms of interpretation by Tim, because that's what this is. I'm interpreting the information I was given. A couple days after that, I did get an email from the bishop that told a little bit more. I forwarded that out to as many of you as I could. Basically had some information in there. It wasn't a lot of interpretation of anything. There are a lot of open questions. There are a lot of things that we just don't know yet. And I'm going to do the best I can today, and the whole purpose of this meeting is to say, no, I'm not ignoring it. We're going to address it, but I didn't feel like it was worthy of taking over a worship service to do. So we're going to take a few minutes here and do it. Let me also say, and I want to be as clear as I can possibly be about this right up front, there is no vote, no resolution, no amendment, nothing that's going to be discussed, voted on, and passed that is going to change the fact that we here at Wayne Street welcome everyone. If that's ever going to change, I'm just going to be as clear as I can. It's going to have to change over my dead body, and I mean that sincerely. Because that's what we do, that's who we are, and no resolution is going to change that. So if you're concerned about that on either side of this issue, don't be, because that mind has been made up. So the controversy that has finally divided us after almost 200 years of working through things is the concept of homosexuality, and what are we going to do? Are we going to ordain homosexual people, and are we going to identify or celebrate homosexual marriages? Just very, very quickly, give me 2 minutes to give you a history of this, because it's important that you see where this came from. In 1935 is when this problem started. In 1935, the U.S. government created this thing called Social Security. And in Social Security, and I'm not saying either way, I'm just saying that was something that was done, so I know everybody's kind of touchy about that one. I'm not saying anything else about it, except that it existed. And because it existed, the government now had a vested interest to know who was financially responsible for who. And if you go back and look at the history, this thing called marriage licenses came like a year or two later, became popular a year or two later. So you had to register with the state before you get married. Why? Because then somebody was financially responsible for you and to you. So in doing so, over the past, what has been 80 years or whatever, the institution of marriage and the idea of how our culture, and again, I'm not agreeing with this, I'm just telling you what I've witnessed, has changed. We now see marriage more as a financial obligation than we do as a relationship. Again, I don't like that, and I'm not saying, hey, this is what Tim thinks. No, I am totally against that. But that's what it's seen as today. And that's why you've got the rise of a lot of things we have, like child support and even abortions and things like that. All this has come because somebody has entered into a contract where they don't want to honor the terms, so we have to do something about it. And that's where this conversation has come from. And that's why these things have now become an issue, because, again, getting married is a financial entanglement, not a relationship. Now, we here in the church, since our inception, has always seen marriage as a way for a man and a woman to come together and raise a family. That's worked pretty well. And unfortunately, though, when the government came and turned it around, again, I'm trying to be very careful. I'm not trying to make a political statement here. I'm just saying, when they came along and changed the parameters, the entire thing changed. The past 80 years, what has happened to the institution of marriage? You just go look for yourself, and you'll see. You want to be very, very careful, because there's nothing that the government loves more than to go fix things that are not broken. So you want to just keep that in mind. So now, in the midst of this, people say, well, I want to change what this means. Since it's a financial arrangement and not a relationship, I should be able to marry anybody I want. And there's a lot of debate around that now. Unfortunately, we as the church have been caught in the crossfire in that we have been the institution overseeing that for 80 years or whatever it's been. Well, actually for longer, but since the idea of you had to register with the state, we have been performing this. We have, for lack of a better term, gotten in bed with the state on this one. So we are formalizing what is essentially now they see as their institution. So, since the government's not allowed to make rules about religion and all this other crazy stuff, they've tried to adjust this. Well, the problem is, since we're the one that are performing the ceremonies for them, that became a problem, because we're looking at this going, this is not a financial arrangement for us. We're building families. That's what the purpose of marriage is. And so the government said, yeah, but we want it to work this way, so we think you should do it this way. And we're like, we don't care what you think. And that's where this whole thing came from. So now we are to the point that what does it mean? What do we do now with it? Because, and again, I know I get accused of being cynical a lot, and I'm sorry about that, but I'm just telling you how I see it. I've been a pastor for 20 years. The number of folks that I have done weddings for that are active attendees of my church, people that I know well, I could count all of them on one hand and probably not need my thumb in 20 years. Okay, that is just not how it works. And so that's this reality. Again, I don't like that, but that's where we are. And since now the cultural definition of what it means to be married is a financial one rather than a family building one, that's now why we have a rise of things I was talking about earlier, like child support and abortion and so on and so forth. Because now the institution is now temporary, and we can make it and break it whenever we want, and whatever. It's just messed up beyond belief. So, okay, so that's what led us to where we are now. So now the culture is dictating to us, we want to redefine your institution, where there are many in ours who say, we're not really interested in that, and now you've got the unstoppable force meeting the immovable object. Hence, here we are today. So what the United Methodist Church has tried to do was try to reconcile these two sides that refuse to speak to each other, refuse to be civil to each other, refuse to concede any point to each other, and have acted like children in this whole thing. Both sides are at fault. And we've come to this fight to the point now where basically one side has had to say, I'm going to take my ball and go home. And so the way that the split is now working, the way it's proposed, and again, the vote will happen in May, so nothing's written in stone yet. But the current proposal of how the divide will work is the what's known as the traditional side, the side who basically likes things the way they are, is branching off. So the side that's staying will be the side then that will redefine this institution. That's the fight that we're in. So that's and as you can imagine, the media loves this stuff because it makes all of us look bad, and that's why I learned about it from CNN and not from someplace I should have, because they couldn't wait to run with the story. So that's what the division looks like. The timetable is a special general conference, as I understand it. A worldwide general conference is being called in May. I don't remember the exact date. And at that point, they're going to vote on what is going to happen, and then I'm assuming from there, the two sides will get defined, and eventually it's going to come down to the point that individual churches will have to decide which denomination we want to be a part of. Now, to think that these two denominations that are going to be created are going to be exactly the same in every way except for one issue is ridiculous. Okay, there's going to be more differences, so you can't say, well, I'm this way on this issue, so I'm going. It's not going to work that way. There's going to be a whole lot more to it. So, whichever side of the issue you think you're on or think you want to be on, there's still a lot of conversation needs to happen so the two sides can get clear, defined exactly what each side will look like, and then people can join accordingly. This is going to create a lot of problems, as you can imagine, because not only will Wayne Street, I'm assuming if this continues on, is going to have to decide which side of the issue you're going to be on, or which denomination you're going to go with. I also, as a clergy person, am also going to have to decide which side of this I'm going to go with. Now, let me say, I'm not trying to dramatize this. I'm just telling you how it is. Years ago, my wife left me. I don't know if one of the two sides will be welcoming to me or not. And I've spent enough time in my life, both personally and professionally, trying to get places I'm not wanted, that I don't know that I want to do that anymore. So I don't know what's going to happen to me. I don't know which side I'm going to end up on. But, all those things remain to be seen. But as you can imagine, there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of disinformation and a lot of misinformation out there going on about this. Let me assure you, beyond any shadow of a doubt, that we are going to continue building the kingdom. I did not become a pastor to build a denomination. I, honest to God, could care less about the United Methodist Church. I am building a kingdom. I am going to do that in whatever form I end up in or whatever place I end up with. I will grow where I'm planted. All I'm inviting you to do is to walk that road with me. Don't step away from. Don't step away from this too quickly. All right, give us all a chance to figure out what this is going to look like. I know many of you are like, well, I'm out, or others of you are like, well, it's about time. Look, we're going to do better than the denomination did. We're going to figure out how to work together and think, you know what, hungry children are far more important than this issue. And we're going to figure out a way to say lost souls are far more important than this. We will find a way here at Wayne Street. I can't promise you anything beyond that, but as long as you're willing to have me, we will find a way. But you're going to have to give me a chance to navigate what this is going to look like. And I'm going to ask you, please, any of you who are thinking about jumping ship now, give me a little time. Let me find out what this is going to be. I'm going to do the best I can to continue building the kingdom in the same way we have the past, year and a half. So don't run too quickly, because there's still some good here to be had. All right? Now, yeah, you can clap for that. Let me get to the frequently asked questions portion of the presentation. Many people have asked, what about the building? What about all these things? Under the proposal, again, as Tim understands it, is all the assets and all the debt is still ours, which means the building is still ours, the parsonage is still ours, everything that we owe, obviously that's still ours, and then all of our financial assets and everything else, all that belongs to us. They're not going to take anything from that. So I know there was some concern in the early service that they're going to force our church out of our hand. That's not being considered. That's not a part of their proposal. Okay, I think I've got everything. Do you have any questions? My whole point. Yes, Matt. As it currently stands, there are only two options, but as I read the proposal, they have left some room for some other possible things in this. But again, those are yet to be defined. So there are some possibilities there'll be more than two denominations. And by the time we get to the moment that we're going to vote, we'll know what they all are. But as of this moment, this morning, I don't know what they'll be. Yeah, the other, and then some in between somewhere. Any other questions that you have? Yeah. I'm looking. Who's talking to me here? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. As I understood the article, the other one will continue to be the United Methodist Church. The part that's breaking off, the part that says we will not accept a redefinition of our institution, is the traditional, and I'm hoping they get a different name for it. But that's what they're looking at. So the other one will continue to be the United Methodist Church, even though I have some issues with the word united anymore, but that's what they're going with. So, yes, Teresa. Yes. My guess is they will reconstitute. Her question is, what will beyond the local church look like after that? My guess is there'll be two sets of them. There'll be a new district and a new conference, and our apportionments will go to whichever denomination we join. Again, my interpretation of it. Yeah. There was another hand on back here. Oh, same question. Yep. Yeah. That's where our apportionments will go, is they'll go to support whatever the new denomination, I guess that's the word, that will be a part of. It is global. Yes. She's asking about what this will do to missions globally. I cannot imagine it will do anything positive. I can't imagine anything good as far as that's going to go is going to come from us splitting. Our power is in our numbers, and when you take our numbers and cut them in half or less, nothing good comes from that. I wish I had better news, but that's where it's at. Yes, Josh. I don't know what they will dictate for us to do, but my thought would be is when it comes to the moment that we're going to have to vote, it will have to be a charge conference. And my personal, again, don't hold me to this because I don't know what they're going to require of us, is that we would have a meeting similar to this and vote in that context. Yes, it would be just members in that situation. Well, yeah, my guess would be just members, even though I don't know what you're members of anymore. I mean, I'm not trying to be funny, but yeah. So, yes. Yep, one of our 4 pillars of Scripture, and we're going to hang on to that one with both hands. I'm sorry, I got like 6 people talking to me here. She said about hanging on to biblical truth, and I couldn't agree more. Yep. Yes. Yes. Yep. Well, this controversy has existed for 50 years. Yep. Right. Right. And there's a lot of steps to this process need to do, and you're right, there's a lot of money, which means there'll be a lot of controversy. But the reason that we're having this meeting today is because many of you have asked about it, and I know a lot of people are talking about it. I want you to know the proposal that's on the table. And that's what they're taking to this general conference. It's going to happen in May. That's where the conversation will happen. Yes, it could be voted down on its face. That very well could happen. But just know that voted down or voted up is not going to be the end, because neither side's going to give it up. Sure. We here in the United States are very torn. And I'll tell you exactly where the divide runs. Actually, there are 2 divides that run through the United States. One of them is urban and rural, and the other one is how far do you live from an ocean. Those are the 2 divides that we deal with. And they have 2 very, very different ideas on this particular issue. So, yes. Well, they are trying their best to answer controversy. And they're trying their best to address it. And there are 2 sides, both what we would know as the left side and the right side have gone so far off both ends, they've actually met in the middle on the other side. And so they are now fighting it out, and now you've got people saying, we need to do more than just fight about this issue. We need to get this settled, and that's what they're trying to figure out. Yes. It's a very good question that I do not know the answer to. That's a very good question. I wondered the exact same thing. Well, I mean, there's a lot of different things about, a lot of different interpretation of that. So, yes. Well, it's because I mean the whole issue is who owns the institution, and that's why I started with the little disclaimer I had before. Who does it actually belong to? We say it belongs to us. We should get to define what it is. But the government says no, it belongs to us. We should define what it is. If you want to know what my solution is, tell them to give us our institution back. Let them create something else called civil unions or whatever you want to call it, and let them go for it. Look, as long as we have a societally accepted definition of what it means to consent, which means I don't want anybody marrying any 8-year-olds or anything stupid like that, but as long as we can agree to that, go for it. Just don't redefine what we have already defined. All right, have I sufficiently aggravated everyone? Hey, let me say this. I still love all of you. I hope that you still love me. I look forward to being your pastor for another 100 years if you'll let me. And just hang in there, okay? We're going to get through this. I promise. So...